Hello everyone, and welcome to another R tutorial video. And in this video, we're going to continue our discussion on using colors to embellish and improve our plots. So in our previous video, we went through using the default color schemes to color based on a single color, based on a factor variable, and then based on a threshold. So now what I want to do is I want to talk about how we can include custom colors, so going beyond the default colors that R chooses. And this really requires a little bit more effort, especially on the part of the base R plot, to be able to include. But what I want to do is, before we even talk about code, I just want to talk about where we get these colors from. Now, it is certainly possible for you to specify your own color ramps. I am not going to show you how to specify your own colors because I think that is sort of ill-advised, given the amount of research and effort that has gone into creating all of these other color ramps that are available. So what I want to do is I want to actually show you a resource, and this resource will be available in the description, of the R Color Brewer. So R Color Brewer is an amazing package for managing colors. And what I really want to do is focus you on this graphic over here. So all of these color schemes are available to you through the package R Color Brewer. And what's nice about GGPLOT2 is if you've loaded in GGPLOT2, because you installed dependencies, you've actually brought R Color Brewer along with it without even necessarily knowing that you did. And the nice thing about R Color Brewer is that it has available to you all of these different color ramps, and you will access them by simply putting their name into R. And that'll make a lot more sense here in a second. But I just wanted to show you that, and I'll make this available in the description, that there are all of these color spectral profiles and color palettes available to you. So there really is no need, unless you have a very specific reason, to ever specify your own colors directly. So let's assume, for the sake of this discussion, that we are going to be using the dark 2 color palette for all of our custom colors for now. And again, wherever I put dark 2, you could go back in later and you could put in any one of these color palettes, and it would end up running just fine. We're going to use dark 2 because I think it's a nice color scheme. So let's start first off, because I think it's a little bit easier actually in this case, to talk about how GGPLOT2 does this. So for GGPLOT2, we're going to copy we'll do it based on species. I think that's a good starting point. We'll do it based on species. So right now, if we were to run this, we would generate, actually let's just run this again and show you what we would generate. Right, so we would generate this color scheme with red, green, and blue, the base colors. If we wanted to change our color scheme, the way we would do that is we would add a new layer. And this layer is going to actually specify to ggplot what colors to use. And so the layer that we're going to add is actually called scale, because scale allows you outside of the R code. We would type in, actually let's do this, scale underscore, and then because we're pulling things in from Color Brewer, ggplot actually has its own scale for Color Brewer specifically, Color Brewer. Now, the way this works is we want to specify a palette, P-A-L-E-T-T-E. And the palette we want to specify, and in this case we actually do put this in quotes. Unlike a lot of other things you'll see in ggplot, we actually do put this in quotes. And it's going to be dark 2. Now notice here that the capitalization is important. Oops, I meant to put this, sorry, I actually misplaced that. That's supposed to go down here. Right, so if we run this, and then we run that, you'll see that we've changed the color to the first 3 colors in the color palette of dark 2. So that's all you have to do to change the color scheme in Color Brewer, or sorry, in ggplot. And you'll notice that it also dynamically updated the legend over here. So let's talk about how we would approach this in base R. And the reason I wanted to do ggplot2 first is because it's a lot easier. So with base R, if we wanted to color it based on species, which is what we did before, right, we don't have a good way of specifying the colors here. It's going to use the default colors. If we wanted to specify different colors, we would have to actually specify the colors in the color parameter here. The problem with that is that we want these colors to represent the species, just like we did down here. Now, so in order to do that, we actually have to do a fair amount of legwork up front. And I'm going to sort of walk you through how this works. So the first thing that we have to do is we actually have to go in and we have to assign colors based on the species. And so this is going to be a little weird, but we're actually going to create an entirely separate data frame. And this data frame is going to have 2 columns in it. The first is going to be species, which is going to be equal to the levels of iris $species. And I'm keeping this the same name as the original data set for a reason here. And then it's also going to have a column called color. And we're going to set colors equal to, and this is going to be a little bit confusing, but we're going to use an I to protect what we put in after that from being turned into a factor. We can also do something like, actually we don't need to do that, we can do it this way. Brewer.pal. So brewer.pal is a function where you give it the number of colors that you want and a color palette, and it returns the specific hexadecimal color codes for to give you a color palette. So in this case, we're going to do 3 because that's the number of species that we have. And then we want to pull in the name. We want to grab the dark 2. So if I run this code, and then I go down here and I show calls, you'll see that what we have is we have the species, just like we had before, and then we have these colors over here. And these hexadecimal codes, you just have to sort of accept it, that these 3 color codes are the same as we got using the scale color brewer. So that's the first step. So generate a palette. I cannot spell today. Generate colors. Then we have to attach the colors to the data. And we do this, I like to create a new data set because I don't like to mess with the original. And we're going to use the merge function. Now, merge is just, it's similar to if you've ever seen me talk about dplyr. This is essentially the base R equivalent of merge left, or sorry, join left. And what merge is going to do is we're going to give it an X. The X is going to be iris. The Y is going to be calls. And then the by is going to be SPECIES, species, because that's the column that they both share. So if we run this, and then we just do a quick head on df, just to show you that it ran. See, so now we have the colors column in here equal to the species. So now what we can do is we can finally plot the data. So we need to make a couple of small changes here. We are now pulling from DF instead of iris, and our colors is not based on species. Instead, it's based on this colors column. We run this, and then we run that, and you'll see that we've ended up in the same place. So I know there was a lot here, especially with the base R. If you feel like any of it was confusing, I encourage you to pause the video, go back, rewatch the parts you're confused about, and as always, please reach out. Thank you.